Welcome to Contemporary Retirement. Contemporary Retirement is a public interest program focused on the retirement community. Every program has segments on legal, financial, and health issues affecting the retirement community. Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a major grant from the Family Heritage Trust Company.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored by Family Heritage Trust Company. The Family Heritage Trust Company is an independent bank chartered trust company established by local professionals to provide fiduciary services including fee-based investment advice, trust services, retirement planning, and tax planning. The Family Heritage Trust Company is committed to client service in our communities. For more information, call the Family Heritage Trust Company at 301-631-5900.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a grant from R. Thomas Murphy & Associates, P.C. R. Thomas Murphy & Associates is one of Franklin County's leading law firms, emphasizing estate, trust, elder law, and medical assistance planning.
Welcome to the Is It Legal feature on Contemporary Retirement. Is It Legal focuses on the legal issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Tom Murphy from the R. Thomas Murphy Law Firm with offices in Waynesboro, Chambersburg, and McConnellsburg. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Good morning, Mike.
Tom, we've been sort of not talking about legal stuff, although it comes up in legal context for the last several weeks, and that is that oftentimes, not because we were trained in the area, but by on-the-job training, we end up fulfilling some roles in assisting people in identifying appropriate care plans.
Well, exactly, and you'll see out there that there's lots of resources, but there's no one centralized area or person who's doing it except us, because we can then tell you what's available, how to pay for it, and what the pros and cons are without being sold a product that you don't need.
Plus, we also have hundreds of clients in all of these facilities. We're seeing these facilities every day, and I'm not aware of a single facility that is perfect for every circumstance. They have strengths, they have weaknesses, and as you look at that facility, you've got to ask yourself, is this particular facility strengths what my particular loved one needs, or they have a need that it's clear this facility is not a great possible solution for?
That's a good point. We spend a lot of time trying to find out, what are the medical issues for that client and what's the prognosis, because then we can help fit into a perfect situation, or as perfect as we can make it, without having to, go try 10 different facilities.
So we talked a little bit about in-home care. We talked a little bit about aid and attendance, the VA benefit, the last several weeks. The next tiers of housing tend to evolve around cottages and apartments. And as we sit and we talk to the client, we're looking at a number of things. If it's a single person, we would have one approach to that. But with married couples, you oftentimes have one spouse having differing care needs than the other spouse, right, which then means if you're going to try to move out of the house and move to an environment, you need to be certain that you're going to be in an environment that both spouses' needs are going to be taken care of.
And that's an excellent point. It's rare for both couples to age in the same health and everything else, and so you need to be able to identify facilities that can meet both spouses' needs going forward and project that into the future for the rest of their life.
And we have standalone assisted living facilities where you have one spouse that needs assisted living, the other doesn't. That's a very cost prohibitive way of having them both there when it isn't necessary. So in that case, we're oftentimes looking at continuing care retirement communities where one spouse could either be in a cottage or independent living, while the other spouse with a higher service need might be in assisted living or the nursing home, and they can be in the same place but not double charging for the one who does not need services.
Yeah, and with the thriving of the CCRCs, continuing care retirement communities, they're realizing that, and so you're seeing facilities that are having lots of slices of care, and so a couple can be under the same roof essentially, but in the right level of care.
It doesn't always have to be a CCRC. For instance, we have a nursing home that has assisted living in this community. If that happened to be the perfect need for them, it's okay. But if on the other hand, one needs assisted living, the other only needs an apartment or a cottage, that particular facility does not fulfill that need, but there are other facilities out there that might.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're blessed in this area that we have any number of choices, and each one tries to meet those specialized needs in different ways, and so you just need to know what's out there.
As we talk to families about this, we have a bitter confrontational issue that they don't want to deal with. In order to be able to control your environment in a continuing care retirement community, You have to make the decision to go when you don't need it.
That's an excellent point.
Because if you wait until you need it, you're not going to be able to control your choices.
Absolutely. That's a very good point, because people oftentimes get dragged into situations where if they made a calculated, mature decision based on the best interests of each other, it's going to have a positive outcome.
So you make a decision to go to a cottage at a continuing care retirement community or an independent living apartment. One spouse has a health crisis. That facility's requirement is to get you back into that facility. You have a priority admission back into their facilities ahead of everybody else out on the street. And while they may not be able to take you directly from the hospital, as soon as they have a bed, they're going to take you back in there, and you're going to have some control over your care delivery. But if, on the other hand, you stayed at home way past when you should have stayed at home, and now you find yourself, discharged to a place you don't like, and you're not in a position to do anything about it, that really isn't a good plan.
No, and you're absolutely right, because too many folks out there are not being proactive, they're being reactive, and so you get a bad outcome. And if you're going to stick your head in the sand, you're going to have things bite you, and you won't be able to control your life.
So we have some of these independent living apartments, and some as low as $1,500, sometimes $3,000, $4,000 a month. And people say, well, that costs me a lot more to own than our house. But we use a calculus that says a house costs you 1% a month to own. So if you have a $300,000 house, it costs you $3,000 a month. Taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance, deferred maintenance, and you don't have that money invested, plus all the costs associated with food and everything else there. And if you have one spouse in a facility and one not, you're maintaining two households. Most people are quite shocked to find out that it really doesn't cost any more money to be in that independent living apartment than it costs them to own their house.
And that's a good point for people to think through, and we can usually calculate that for them and show the pros and cons, and it ends up being very comparable, especially where you're not able to cut your grass and cut the hedge and do all the things that need to be done.
Tom, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on our program.
You're welcome.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Few things in life are as important as family. Leave your insurance worries to us. Write Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
Every life that meets its end leaves a heart for love to mend. Sister, brother, family, friends are left to carry on. When the loss seems more than you can bear, it's nice to know that we'll be there at Double Save Fiery Funeral Home. We care.
Call Ed Lowe to help put your mind at ease.
Welcome to special guest feature on Contemporary Retirement. This segment focuses on various issues which are of importance to the retirement community. With me today is Bill Beard, one of my favorite inspirational people in Washington County. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Thank you, Michael. Good to be back.
Now, most people know when I introduce a guest, I always attach a label to them, executive director or this or that. But, you seem to be involved in an awful lot of stuff, and so it would not do justice to just introduce you as having been in one organization.
Well, that's true. That's true.
And you're also the kind of glue that drives our society. People looking out, seeing things that need to be done, and not part of their job, they just do it.
Yep, it's fun.
And so one of the just do it things that you've been involved with for a long time is the RAMP project. Tell us a little bit about that.
The Home Ramp Project, which is an offshoot of the Commission on Aging, set up back in about 10 years ago, 20 years ago, to allow people to stay in their homes by providing wheelchair access. If somebody's in a wheelchair, we go put a ramp on so they don't have to go to a nursing home.
And it's not a government agency. It's not actually the Commission on Aging. It's just a bunch
separate
of volunteers.
And I have my my erector set group that goes out and people that love to
build ramps for
build
people.
ramps.
And one
We've
of the
done well
irony-
over 200 in the last 20 years.
Well over 200. One of the ironies is when the person doesn't need it, you go take it down.
We take it out and reuse the material, so I have volunteer labor, reuse the material, so we're able to keep the cost down.
And so obviously if a person can contribute toward the cost, that's great. But
We're
we
very
don't-
good at asking for money if
But if
people
they
can
can't,
afford
you
it.
do it for them anyway.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's been fun.
And so in terms of our Washington County viewership, they could call the Commission on Aging. They get directed to your group.
That's great. That's true. That's true.
Now, I also know that you've been involved in an organization called MiHi for a long time as
That's
well.
right.
Now, what does MiHi mean?
Well, MiHi, it stands many individuals, helping individuals, but it deals with disability issues, senior issues, and we got involved with Project Lifesaver a little over 10 years ago with a mother who had an autistic child, came to the county and wanted some system where they could put a device on her child in case the child wandered off.
And this is particularly crucial because when you have people either with dementia or perhaps some mental incapacity, they don't know where they are, they could get lost, and
They just
the
wander
caregiver
off.
could not just lose track of them.
That's right. We had an incident this past Saturday, as a matter of fact. A young autistic child wandered off, was not in the program, took the county about, several hours, 6, 7 hours to find the child, whereas if that child had been in the program, we would have found him in 30 minutes.
All right, well, let's talk about that. First, I'm going to have cameraman Clint just kind of focus on this. This looks like a watch. It has cords hanging from it. And so if we had a person who was at risk, whether it be an autistic child or perhaps a person with dementia, this would just actually be attached to their wrist, right?
That's correct.
And then what is it?
It's a transmitter, has a unique frequency. Batteries need to be changed every month to keep it up when somebody wanders off, whether it's an autistic child or a senior with dementia, which is the more common situation. The caregiver or somebody at the home calls 911 and says so-and-so's wandered off, and they immediately go out and are able to track them with tracking receivers.
So law enforcement has the ability to triangulate and immediately figure out where they are.
And this is not just in Washington County. We operate in Washington County, but this is throughout the viewing area. Project Lifesaver is available. The Hagerstown Police Department and the Sheriff's Office and the Emergency Management people all have the tracking devices. And they've been very good. We've had, over the 12 years we've been doing this, we've had about a half a dozen cases, and in every case, the individual is found very quickly.
And the point of this one is, people have the things that hang around their neck, and I'm not in any way diminishing it, but it requires an affirmative act in order
That's
for
correct.
that to be
That's
activated.
right.
This is continuously broadcasting.
That's
so
exactly right.
it means it doesn't require any action on the part of the person who has it on for it to be working.
Right. That's right.
But also means it uses power. So tell us about how you deal with that.
Well, we have either a volunteer or the caregiver has to be sure the batteries are operating. We have a battery tester. But it's the routine thing is to put a new battery in every month, and our people check to be sure that happens. Because it's no good if the battery...
Obviously, as is your normal habit, you're looking for contributions, but if somebody needs the service, they can have it anyway.
That's exactly correct. Yeah.
Well, Bill, I always congratulate you on you being an unsung hero in this community, seeing
thank you.
needs and stepping forward, and I'm always glad to have you on.
Well, thank you. Good to be here. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Tranquility at Fredericktown Assisted Living and Memory Care provides a warm, home-like atmosphere that promotes daily life enrichment. At Tranquility, our medical director is a geriatric physician. Our professionals support and understand the various stages associated with Alzheimer's and dementia. We have on-site physical, occupational, and speech therapists, as well as around-the-clock licensed nurses. For more information, give Tranquility at Fredericktown a call today, because everyone deserves great care. Let us do the caregiving so you and your loved one can embrace life again.
Dad, there's the big one. There's the big one. Just wait. There's the monster. Just one more bid on hurleyauctions.com. I got it!
If you haven't visited hurleyauctions.com, you don't know what you're missing. Whether you're buying or selling, antique cars, tractors, boats, or real estate, you can do it all at hurleyauctions.com.
Get to know Dr. Carrie Hesley at Diagnostic Imaging Services.
What I find most rewarding is caring for women through our Women's Imaging Center. We have a caring staff that will ease patients through an ultrasound, bone densitometry, breast biopsy, or mammogram. Our health team is sensitive to emotions involved in women's imaging and understands that every woman is at risk for breast cancer. Providing the community with a center that is so dedicated to breast health and the imaging needs of women is something special.
DIS Women's Imaging Center, providing women with progressive care.
Welcome to Contemporary Health Scene. Contemporary Health Scene focuses on the health issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Toni Nelson, Family Support Resource Center, Washington County Public Schools. Welcome to the show, Toni.
Thank you, Michael. Happy to be here.
Always glad to have you here. One of the great passions of the lawyers and the financial types on this program has been supporting families with special needs.
And that's something I've been doing my whole career in the last 28 years. Being a mother of a special needs child, you have to know all the ins and outs of what the future may hold. And unfortunately, things change very quickly as far as residential and monetary financial support, and you want to make sure your loved one is taken care of after they leave the school system and also beyond your longevity.
So one of the challenges that we have here, or actually one of the benefits that we have here, is the public school system is required to provide support for these families until the child reaches age 21.
Correct.
But part of your role there is not only to support them while they're under 21, but to begin the transitional phase as they leave the public school system.
Exactly. And one of the things that has become a challenge is that we have so many special needs children now that qualify for these services, but parents are not completely informed about transition. So we try to get them as early as the child turns 16 to 21 to help them ready themselves for DDA support, supplemental security income, but also that life planning and making sure that guardianship or power of attorneys are in place so that there are no hiccups or really major problems as the child exits the school system, but reassures the family that things are in place, again, in the event that something would happen to them.
Well, and let's just back down to under 21. First of all, you're going to advocate and help them understand what's available to them and make sure they get it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one thing I'm passionate about that I do most of the time in my career is talk about those things with families, get them involved, to give them the right resource, make contacts for them, recommend the right resources or the right agencies, and help them understand what that looks like and help them understand early on what things are going to proceed. Because it does take a time. It's a learning process. It takes time for them to absorb all that.
And there's a couple things going on. First of all, basically every Board of Ed in the state, in the country rather, is required to provide this support level. So as our people are watching in other counties, it exists there as well. But secondarily, some of these programming that you talk about have waiting lists. And so, in fact, you need to get them engaged in that process, not when they turn 21, but perhaps significantly younger.
Oh, that's a big thing for me. As soon as I know that a child has a lifelong special need or developmental disability, I myself make sure that they get involved with Developmental Disabilities Administration to get onto that list, because they are still might not be eligible for things until the child leaves the system, but they're eligible for low intensity support income, meaning that they can get services for their special child during the year. Between January and July, there's a lottery of money that they can apply for, and these things can be used for therapies. They can be used for activities for their child that they might not otherwise be able to pay for. So yes, getting on those lists. One of the other lists is the autism waiver, which is wonderful, but unfortunately for the state of Maryland, it is a very long list, and they go by the year and the month of how many slots are open for the state. So I think they're in 2008 now, and I don't know what month, and you have to qualify. That means there's only so many slots open. But that's wraparound services for the child until they leave the school system at 21 if they have significant autism. And that is, of course, 1 in 68 right now. So we are really passionate about getting these families as much support and therapies as possible.
And then, of course, you and I work together routinely as we do estate planning for these folks. They need to understand that the parent is not always going to be an available caregiver, so you have to work for care planning as well. You have to work about how you're going to deal with the legal and financial system. The perception is you can't provide an inheritance for a special needs child, which is absolutely wrong. You just have to do it the right way.
Exactly, and we focus that every year with you. And what is really great about the workshop that we do it with somebody from service coordination to help the family understand those ins and outs, and then you and I both present to the families all those legal options of what inheritance, special needs trust, the power of attorney versus guardianship, and any other way that we can support that child in the future.
And so if somebody wanted to contact you, what phone number could they call?
301-766-8221. That's my direct line.
And you're always glad to help anybody, even if they're over 20.
Absolutely. Oh, I work with families when they're 10 years out of the school system, so I'm very happy about it.
Toni, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on the show.
Thank you, Michael.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Albright, Crumbacker, Mal and ITEL are a full-service firm that provides elder care services including managing incoming bills, bill payment, depositing checks, balancing bank statements, and preparing, planning, and filing personal tax returns. Put your mind at ease and call us today.
Welcome to the Making Sense feature on Contemporary Retirement. This segment focuses on various financial issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Pete Alexander, a partner in the regional accounting firm of Albright, Crumbacker, Mal, and ITEL with offices in Hagerstown and Martinsburg. Welcome to the show, Pete.
Good to be here, Mike.
Pete, as we're ending the end of the year here, we obviously need to do tax planning before the end of the year. We have this new tax law, which is substantially altering who's going to be able to itemize and so forth. But we know we have some of our viewers out there that have had significant medical expenses in 2018, and they do need to pay attention to both their income and those expenses.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this in the past, and it's good to touch upon it because remember, what you do now for tax planning is the only thing that counts. You cannot do anything after December 31st to help your tax situation. So what we're talking about is individuals may have a high amount of medical expenses.
Oftentimes either an assisted living bill if it were medically necessary or a nursing home bill.
Right, and if those people have a high amount of medical expenses, they may be able to itemize. That's where your medical expenses are deducted. They not only may be able to itemize, but that itemized deduction can offset their income. Now the problem is if you have $100,000 of itemized deductions, but you only have $40,000 of income, you're going to have a $60,000 excess deduction sitting there.
Which will disappear on January 1.
Yeah, unlike a lot of losses, those type of deductions do not carry forward. So you have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to use those, and that is the year they incur. You can't carry those medical excess itemized deductions back. You can't carry them forward. They're pretty much, for the most part, a once-in-a-lifetime when they occur, has to happen in that year.
And if just using an arbitrary number that you were in a 33% tax bracket, which I realize most people aren't, that would save you $20,000 that you're going to lose. So most people look at me and say, well, how can I protect it? And actually people don't realize they have ways of creating income.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the important thing. The other important thing to remember is you can create income, especially if you have IRA money, especially if you have government savings bonds, by pulling that money out of the IRA. You don't have to spend it. You can invest it in the same vehicle outside the IRA that it was invested inside the IRA. But by pulling that money out of your IRA, you're able to create income, and then that money is forever already been taxed. Because remember, as we said in previous shows, IRA money, if you don't pay tax on it during your life and your heirs pull it out, they're going to pay tax. So would you rather leave somebody $100,000? Would you rather leave your son or daughter $100,000 tax-free, or would you rather leave them $100,000 that they must pay tax on?
Now, I'm going to oversimplify because the math isn't exactly right, but going back to the example that we used, you had $60,000 worth of excess medical expenses over and above your income. So if you actually took $60,000 out of the IRA account, or recognized $60,000 worth of savings bond income, or $60,000 worth of deferred income in an annuity, it wouldn't be quite tax-free, but it'd be darn close.
It'd be very close to tax-free, and as we said, somewhere down the road you may not have those deductions, or you may leave those assets to an heir, and they won't have any deductions to offset them, and they'll have to pay tax.
And one of the misconceptions people have is that they have to take the money out of the IRA or recognize the income in the savings bond or the annuity in the same month in which the medical expense was incurred.
Yeah, everything the government does for the most part on your individual tax return is a year-by-year situation. So you have till December 31st. Maybe give your broker who manages your IRA account a few weeks and call them by early December. But you can pull that money out anytime during the year. It's all summarized, as you know, when you do your individual return on a one-year-by-one-year basis.
So that couple that's sitting out there or individual with significant medical expenses, I didn't take the money out. Well, as long as you get it out by the end of the year, it will be used against that expense that was occurred early in the year.
Yeah, it's important to do all this planning even under the new law. I know a lot of people are under the mistaken impression under the new law they're not going to be able to itemize. Well, those with large medical expenses will still be itemizing. A lot of people are under the mistaken impression that state taxes aren't deductible. Well, they're limited. They're limited to $10,000. But your real estate tax and Maryland state or PA or West Virginia state income tax up to $10,000 is still deductible, and your charitable contributions are still deductible. So anybody with significant medical expenses will be itemizing still, and it will be important to look at this just like you did in the past.
And most importantly, that old adage, you never take money out of the IRA. It's just so hard to break people of that perception.
It's a good rule of thumb, but like most rules of thumb, there are a lot of exceptions to it. In this case, it's a very good exception.
Because we can offset the income against an expense.
Yeah, we can get it out tax-free.
Pete, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on the program.
Great to be here, Mike.
Thank you from Contemporary Retirement.
Remember a more carefree time? Leave your insurance worries to us, Wright Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
These days, it seems like everything's online, and filling out claim forms and receiving and paying bills online isn't always easiest. That's why we at Quality First Insurance encourage you to just give us a call. Let us help.
Hi there, I'm Paul Sweeney with Quality First Insurance, and it's still just this simple. Our offices are open every weekday where you'll be able to call and speak to real, live people.
No detail was missed. I'm so glad that I turned to Quality First Insurance.
I've recommended Quality First Insurance to my friends who've been just as satisfied.
If you're not happy with what you're paying for Medigap, or more importantly, not happy with your service, give us a try. We're locally owned, and we take the time to provide you with the best. We are Quality First Insurance, and our mission is to provide quality products to quality people. Pick up the phone and give us a call today at 800-745-1411.